So, our first review of the day is going to be for the film The Death of Robin Hood. The Death of Robin Hood is an adaptation there of a story there called Robin Hood's Death there, which was a 17th century tale there. So, this is a more darker retelling of it. This movie is directed by Michael Sarnarski there, who people might know he did Nicolas Cage's film The Pig there. He also did Quiet Place Day One there. I haven't seen Quiet Place Day One, but I did hear good things about that. I heard
Mhm.
that was pretty good there. And hey, how's it going there? Very much. Thanks for stopping by. And then he did that, but I did really like Pig. I like Pig quite a
Mhm.
bit. That's people credit that movie for being like part of the Nicolas Cage, just Cage assance there, him kind of coming back. So I did appreciate that movie. What is this kind of going on in this film here? Well, you have Hugh Jackman who plays the titular character, who plays Robin Hood there. Who he's a weathered guy. He's older now. We see Robin Hood where he's reflecting back at his life and his past of all the things he's done in his life. And this movie says like Robin Hood, all that stuff you heard about him being a guy that stole from the rich and gave to the poor, and him being a jolly guy with his merry men and they were heroes. It's like, no, that was bullshit. He was a piece of shit. He was a bad guy. He killed everybody, not even just the men, but women and children and
Mhm.
slaughtered people. So even looking at this trailer, it's like it kind of reminds you of something like another movie Hugh Jackman did. He's Wolverine, like something like Logan, something like that. Much like something like Unforgiven. Also, I think it's a little mix of like The Northman also in here, which
Mhm.
was the Robert Eggers film. So I think it has all those elements of those films. Any movie you could think about of an older character, older badass who's now looking back at his life and looking at all the evil he's done, and now that he's close to death, it's kind of like, what have I done? What have I, what
Mhm.
kind of legacy have I left? So that's kind of the situation here. And we see once he gets gravely injured, he goes to an island there of these healers there, who led by Jodie Comer there. Jodie Comer plays Sister Bridget there, and he ends up there because one of his merry men, his second in command, Little John, in this, who's played by Bill Skarsgård there, who was unrecognizable. I didn't really know that was Bill Skarsgård afterwards.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was him until the credits.
Yeah, I was like, he's completely unrecognizable there. But yeah, he was the Little John who, he does the thing of like, once I get out, they drag me back in. Of him, "Well, I know you're done killing, but I got this one last thing. If you just help me get my, wife back, then we're all good, and that would really help a lot." So you also have that element in the film there. But if people are expecting like all this action, and you see the trailer, and
Mhm.
it's going to be super bloody, it's not really like that
Mhm.
until like it's like that for the first like 30 minutes, 40 minutes of it. But then after
Mhm.
that happens, it's pretty much just him kind of recovering and healing and reflecting. And then that's pretty much it. So you won't get, it's not as action probably packed as you think it is. Nick, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, yeah, this is a very different adaptation of, what I think pop culture just kind of expects from Robin Hood. We kind of expect jolly old brigand, the man who steals from the rich and gives to the poor. But what I liked about this, and it's a very similar thing to what I liked about a movie like Rogue One. It's taking a lot of that story and really demystifying it, and putting Robin Hood in a place where this is decades after whatever adventures that he had happened, and all of the trails and trails of bodies that he's left in his wake. And so much of the movie is about, can a person like him break that cycle of violence? Because the way this movie opens, it is like vicious, it's brutal, there is like violence against everybody, that it it gets very uncomfortable to watch.
Mm, yeah. And they don't shy away from the violence against kids in this. One kid gets shot in the back of the head with an arrow. Um,
And
you
that
know,
motherfucker is like walking around with an arrow sticking out of his eye.
So it's definitely brutal. I mean, for sure there. And so that happens a lot in it there. So for sure, you will get that. But like I said, it's a slower movie.
Mhm.
This movie takes place in, I think they say it was 1247 AD.
Yeah,
Um,
17th century.
yeah, so it takes place around that time there. And during that time, and people are speaking in Old English. Sometimes it was a little tough to understand what people were saying, because they were kinda not talking very loud. I don't know, kinda I maybe
Mhm,
kinda missed some things there, I felt like. What were
mhm.
kinda your thoughts there on that?
I think a little bit of that could possibly be the sound mixing in like whatever theater you're in because you know a lot of theaters don't really do that. I didn't have a problem like listening to or understanding what characters were saying.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, so maybe that was just my theater or something like that, but I guess it would kind of experience it kind of varied. I don't know if you had what do you have any expectations going to this of what Death and the Robin Hood was kind of going to be there for you?
Um, I tried not to have any like real expectations for this, because knowing Michael Sarnowski's work, Pig was a movie that was kind of sold to me as like a Nicolas Cage's answer to John Wick. Even like you listen to that premise of a man who's like returning to his past to search for like his missing pet. It sounds like John Wick, but what we get in that movie is this more like meditative and quiet film about like a man dealing with grief. And with this, we're kind of getting something similar with the character of Robin Hood and Hugh Jackman's performance, where we're getting a look at what a lifetime of violence does to a person. And is it even possible for him to like redeem himself or to find at least some semblance of peace in his final days?
Mm, yeah. So in some ways, I don't know, I kind of like that, but then also I kind of did find it a little slow,
Mhm,
and maybe a little kind of dull at some points there with that as long as it kind of was going with him just kind of there, recovering and him there with Jodie Comer and trying to get all that done. And I'm glad also it's not just a murder fest like, they
mhm,
always like, okay, one last mission, I'm gonna do this. And you just see that with all of this where he's going full force on it. Cause I mean you could do that easily and it'd be
mhm,
cool and exciting and everything like that. But here it's more of like, let's see how great of an actor Hugh Jackman is, exploring this, exploring his reflective on his life and what he's done, and like you said, all the kind of death and vengeance he's left in his past there, and all of it coming back on him again, and how like it never
mhm.
escapes you because all the people he killed, the sons of the people he killed, the daughters of the people he killed, the nephews, the cousins, all these people, like he's got to
Yeah,
like
it's like they're it's like the people that he killed, that was generations ago. It's like the grandkids that are coming after him now.
Yeah, so it's like, it just kinda never ends there with that. That's why in Harley Quinn, they always say the woman always says, "You gotta end the bloodline." At least if you're gonna kill somebody, you gotta end the bloodline there. So yeah, you gotta have that. But yeah, so it's almost like he's killing these people all over again because all these family members are coming after him for all this time there with that. And then when he's on this island there recovering, not only Jodie Comer, but there's another person he runs into who's a leopard there, who's played by Murray Bartlett. And they just call him, he doesn't have a name or anything, they just call him the
Mhm,
leopard there. And there's like a great moment where with him and Robin Hood there that's really kind of very emotional. I thought that worked very well. But yeah, and you think that, hey, he's gonna have this, life and he's kind of gonna
mhm,
maybe move on for this. But again, that always kind of is coming back. And again, should he
mhm.
tell Jodie Comer's character who he really is? Should he not? And I thought that was also very interesting in it for you there. Did any parts of the movie drag for you, maybe when he was at the nunnery or no?
A lot of the early stuff when he was, in the nunnery, that, that's where I felt the movie's pace kind of went to a halt, but for me, it, like, picked right up again when the leper and Robin started, having their scenes together.
Mm. Yeah, they have a fun back and forth there. I
Mhm,
thought that really worked. And he also has this girl there who's the daughter of Little John, that is there on the nunnery with him. And there's some beautiful moments between him and her there that really work. And the closing shot, the closing scene of this movie really is really good. That's
mhm,
really effective and really works really well. And I thought that was very good. So yeah, and you see that this Robin Hood also is a guy that he does not want to live. I mean, he is
Yeah,
kind of
Yeah, it's like he's a person that is like looking for a good death, but he is also a character that cannot let himself drown.
Mm, yeah. Because there's a moment there early in this movie where Lil Jon saves him, and he just crying out like, "Oh my god! Like, why would
God
you do
damn it!
that?" He thinks he's gonna have that last moment, and then yeah, this doesn't come to him. So, um, how well do you think Hugh Jackman does in this? There.
Honestly, this for an actor that has, been prolific for the better part of like 30 years, ever since kind of breaking out in the first X-Men, this is probably the performance of his career. This is like the most range I think he's had to show as an actor in, something that isn't like purely genre. A lot of the dynamic he gets with Jodie Comer, Murray Bartlett, and Faith Delaney, who plays Little Margaret. All of that is some of the best acting I've seen from Jackman in a long time.
Mm, yeah. Again, I mean, we've seen a little bit of shades of this, like you said, when he was Logan, when like the Wolverine, when he did a little bit of that. I mean, very similarities between obviously his portrayal there, and then obviously what he's doing with Robin Hood there with that. Um, so I think, yeah, he really fits this very well there. And you mentioned Jodie Comer, who does a really great job. Bill Skarsgård, like I said, is unrecognizable as Little John, who comes in and he does a solid job for the bit he's in the movie. Yeah, and the Leopard, Murray Bartlett, he does also really great in his back and forth with Hugh Jackman. So yeah, listen, if you're like I said, if you're expecting something like this to be like Unforgiven, because even Unforgiven is a little bit more
Mhm.
action based there. The Northman is a little bit has a little bit more action in this, I think. The parts of the movie, and there's like that epic scene in the Northman where they're like fighting in the volcano and some shit like that, like all
Yeah,
that type of shit.
that's not what this movie is.
That's not what this is. So it's much more quiet. It's like The Gray with Liam Neeson there, kind of something like that, where you think you're gonna get him fighting wolves and shit like that, but like no, that's not. So I think it's more meditative, it's more quieter, and much more slower than you probably would expect. And if you that sounds appealing to you, if you want to see that, then
Mhm,
I think this really works. So for me, I would give it a good tune in
mhm.
for me. What about you?
Yeah, I'm right there with you. This is a very good tune in. Uh it's a movie I'm fascinated by and how it's like taken this approach of kind of demystifying figures in history or figures in stories like the character of Robin Hood. And I think this is probably Sarnowski's like weakest film if I had to pick one, because Pig is a movie I adore, Quiet Place Day One is fantastic, and this is probably also his best shot film, and the cinematography here is by Pat Scola, and this is gorgeous to look at. Every frame of this thing could like be a painting, and this is I think the performance of Jackman's career. I highly recommend it if you are down for something that's a little more quieter and a little more thought provoking.
Mm, yeah. So two strong tune ins for the death of Robin Hood there in theaters now. Maybe it's gonna be good counter program with this and Toy Story. uh, you know, it's gonna be good there. So yeah, that was our thoughts there.